All right, so this says find the area of each figure. All answers should be in exact form. All right, so when we look at number 1, what is the shape of number 1? It is a parallelogram, okay? And I just realized that the labeling on this is not so great. Like it's trying to show you that it's a parallelogram, but what's wrong with the way it's done? The arrows, like all 4 sides have 1 arrow on them, right? So if they all the ones with 1 arrow is supposed to mean what? They're all parallel to each other. Is that even possible here? No. Okay. So we're just going to add another little arrows here, like this. I didn't even catch that the first time. That's what happens when I steal stuff. I have yet to actually like steal something off the internet for geometry that is 100% accurate in everything it does. I don't know why it's so hard to get things right. All right. So we know that it is a parallelogram. So the area of a parallelogram, what's my area formula? Base times height, right? So I need the base length and I need the height. Did they give me the base? Yes. Did they give me the height? No. Okay. So we need to work on finding the height. And when you look at the base length is what? 8 squared root of 12. So tell me something about that number anything. Could we fix it a little bit? Is it, yeah, it's not simplified all the way, right? So if you start off with the stuff simplified all the way, it makes things easier along the way, because otherwise you just end up with bigger, weirder numbers that you have to simplify. So what does the square root of 12 simplify to? So square root of 12 is going to be equal to what? Well, not just 3. I mean, it can't just be 3. 2 square root of 3, right? Because this becomes 4 and 3. So it becomes 2 square root of 3, right? So we really have 8. Oh, goodness, I'm leaning. Sorry. I've been good about not doing that. This is really 8 times 2 square root of 3, which means instead of this, I can just make that 16 square root of 3. Okay, so that's my base length. Most of the time you're given stuff simplified all the way, but sometimes you're not. So pay attention to that, know how to recognize, and if you're not sure, you try to simplify it, and if you can't, then you can't, and it just looked like it could and it didn't. All right, so then we have the height that we need, right? Okay, so what kind of triangle do we have over here? 30, 60, 90, okay? So 30, 60, 90, this is my 30, right, because that's 60. So this is S, this is 2S, this is S squared root of 3. So what do I put right here for S? Good. 5 squared root of 6 over 2, because that's the best I can do, right? There's no 2.5 there. Can I divide out that 6 and the 2? No, because they live in 2 completely different worlds, right? I just have an ugly number. So now, what do I do with this to find the H? Multiply it by what? Square root of 3. So what I really have is 5 times the square root of 6 over 2 times the square root of 3, right? That's what I'm trying to do. You're multiplying something that's not a fraction by something that is, put it over 1 so you don't do anything strange. The square root of 6, isn't this really just the square root of 3 times the square root of 2? Right? Isn't that what the square root of 6 is? So when you're multiplying all that stuff together in the numerator, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is what? 3. The square root of a monkey times the square root of a monkey is a monkey. So this is going to give me 5 times, square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3, times, and then the square root of 2 all over 2. So that gives me 15 square root of 2 over 2. Make sure you understand where all that came from. Everybody okay with that? Okay, and that represents what? The height. Don't try and just label everything, especially when you have to do weird things and multiply square roots. Write it out somewhere and figure it out so that you're not doing weird things in your head. Okay, so this is the height. This is 15 square root of 2 over 2. So now I'm going to come back and I have my base and I have my height and I'm going to multiply them together. So this is going to give me, my area is equal to the base, which is 16 square root of 3, times the height, which is 15 square root of 2 over 2. Okay. I would put this over 1, and then, do we just start multiplying? Now, I mean, you can multiply 16 times 15 and then divide by 2. But is there a way to simplify your life a little bit here? Yes, because really all this is being multiplied together, so it's like all one big fraction. What can I reduce that 2 with? Can I reduce it with this 2 here? Can I cancel those out? No. This doesn't, or I would have done that already, right? But can I reduce the 2 and the 16? Yep, so this becomes 1, and this becomes 8. So really, I no longer have a fraction. Are my square roots going to multiply together and get rid of a square root in any way? No. But what is the square root of 3 times the square root of 2? Square root of 6. So now I'm going to have a square root of 6 on the end. That takes care of these things. Then I just have to multiply 8 times 15. Well, what's 8 times 10? 80. What's 8 times 5? 40. And so together that gives you 120. So it's 120 square root of 6. That's your area of your parallelogram. And then units squared. Okay with that? You got to be okay with handling the weird stuff and knowing when to apply it. And even if this wasn't drawn right here, if it was drawn over here, you know to move it over to where it goes. Everybody okay with that? All right, so let's look at number 2. What kind of figure is that? It's a kite. Okay, so area formula for a kite, what is it? 1/2 d1 d2. Okay, so let's say you just absolutely had no idea. You have no idea what the formula is. Could you do it a different way? Yes. What is it already divided into for you? Triangles. Could you find the area of each triangle and add them up? Yes. Now it's going to be way easier to use the formula. But if you don't know it or you're getting it confused or whatever, forget the formula, use the triangles, and then you have what you need. Does that make sense? We're going to go ahead and do it with the formula, but those are just other ways to do things, and that's okay. Nobody said you had to use that formula. You should know it. It does make it easier, but, you know. All right, so let's look at what we have. We have neither one of the diagonals, and that's our formula. But even if I'm going to use the triangle version, I still have to know those pieces of the diagonals because that's going to be the base and the height of the triangle. So I kind of have to find all that stuff anyway. This is where my information is, so this is where I need to start. Well, this is 10. This is 45. This is a right angle. So I know this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, right? So these two are congruent to each other. So to find one of those pieces, which would be a piece of each of the diagonals, is it just going to be 10 square root of 2? No, because if I actually label this, this is L, L, and L square root of 2, right? So what I know is that L square root of 2 is equal to what? 10. And here's where some people do some strange things. Like, you know that's true, but then you go and make L equal 10 square root of 2. Like the square root of 2 just jumps magically over. That's not what happens here. What do you have to do? Divide. So we're going to divide both sides by the square root of 2. So L is equal to 10 divided by the square root of 2. Can you leave it like that? No. So we multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And what's that going to give me? 10 square root of 2 over 2, which is 5 square root of 2. So this is 5 square root of 2, and this is 5 square root of 2. Now, in order for me to use my little formula here, I have to have D1 and D2. So I'm going to write it out there so we can go and figure them out as we fill them in. Is that right there enough information to get at least one of my diagonals? Yes, because one of the diagonals, what happens to it? It gets, yeah, well, you double it because it gets bisected. So it is not this one, right, because my symmetry is here. So this is 5 square root of 2. So we can call it, it doesn't matter if that's D1 or D2, but what would that length of the diagonal be? 10 square root of 2. Everybody okay with that? All right, so now we're going to look at this triangle here. And at any point, if your picture's too small or you've got too much stuff on there and you need to redraw the triangle. But some of you are redrawing the triangle and it's like tiny, or it looks nothing like it, which it doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want it to be too weird. You're going to confuse yourself. But draw it big enough to actually label some stuff on. And so when I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I get this triangle. I know that this is 30 and this is 5 square root of 2. Okay. So then this is S, this is 2S, and this is S square root of 3. Do I need both of the other two sides that I don't know? No. I don't need the hypotenuse at all. Like it doesn't help me in finding that because I'm going to use the diagonals. So I don't even need that. I mean, I labeled it, but I'm not going to actually find it. So I just need s times the square root of 3. Do I know what s is? Yes. It's 5 square root of 2. So I'm just going to take 5 square root of 2 and do what with it? Multiply by square root of 3. Right? And what is that going to give me? 5 square root of 6. Everybody with me? All right, so then what is D2? Very good. Okay, so 5 square root of 2 plus 5 square root of 6, or 5 square root of 6 plus 5 square root of 2, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what order you add in. Those are my two diagonals. Can I combine those and get like 10 plus the square root of 8? No. Okay, that's like 5x plus 5y. I can't put them together. You with me? Yes? Okay. All right, so now I have my stuff. Since I'm using this formula, now notice, I've got what I need to plug into that formula. Even if I didn't do this part right here, I have the base and the height of the triangles that I need, and I can go find the pieces and add them together, right? I mean, I can do it a different way, but it is a little simpler to do this, so we're going to go ahead and do it this way. Area is equal to 1/2 times 10 square root of 2 times 5 square root of 2 plus 5 square root of 6. So here's something that I saw quite often on these kite problems or rhombus problems with the same formula, was that you'd take half before you distributed, then you'd also take half after you distributed. Don't do that. If you take half, the 1/2 goes away. Part of the reason that's happening is because y'all are used to not writing down your formulas and just doing stuff, and you know you take half of this, you know you double this, and so you just do it. That is not working out for you anymore, and it's not going to. It's going to continue to be that way. You write it down, you do what it says, and you keep up with it. The process in a logical order is way more important than you being able to just do random things. So I think I want to go ahead and take half of that. So that's going to give me 5 square root of 2 times 5 square root of 2 plus 5 square root of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and write down an extra step that you wouldn't necessarily have to write down. I think some of you should. I don't know that necessarily all of you need to, but I'm going to write down what I'm distributing. So this is going to give me 5 square root of 2 times the 5 square root of 2 that's inside, plus 5 square root of 2 times the 5 square root of 6, which is inside. Okay, we all good with that? So here, 5 times 5 is 25, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, so that gives me 50, right, with no square roots on it. Here, you got a couple of options. Now, I can make this 25 times the square root of 12. That is correct, but then I'd have to simplify my square root of 12. So if you kind of break it apart before you do anything, you can kind of fix that before you go any farther. So my 5 times 5 does give me 25. But then the square root of 2 with this square root of 2 gives me what? 2. And then I just have that square root of 3 left over, so that's going to give me 50 square root of 3. That is the area of the kite. Units squared. And what else do I need? Parentheses. Okay. Everybody okay with that? If you try and just have random stuff all over figuring it out, it's not going to work out for you. Write it down and follow along with what you have. Okay? Are we good? Any questions? All right, I think I want to do one more with you. Yeah, because it's got some fractions and stuff in it. All right, I'm going to do number 3. So this is a what? Parallelogram, yeah. And you kind of have to assume here because I didn't even bother labeling. Area of the parallelogram is base times height. Did they give me the base? No, they really didn't. They gave me this part right here. If it was the whole base, the arrow would be out here. So they just have this. Just that is the 6. Okay? So that means I have to figure out this piece right here so that I can get the whole base. And I also have to figure out this piece right here so I can get the height. Right? Okay, so this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. They have given me the hypotenuse. So from the hypotenuse, I can get which side? S, the short leg, right? Which is across from what? 30. So this is 2S. So what is S going to be? 3. Leaning again. It is just 3 square root of 6 over 2. Right? So, and if you need to still label S, 2S, and S squared of 3, do that, okay? But we really should get to a point where we shouldn't have to do that every single time for everything. But when you have extra square roots in there or you have to rationalize, then you definitely want to at least write some other stuff down. Because to get this right here, I'm going to have to take 3 square root of 6 over 2 and multiply it by the square root of 3, which I can put over 1. So what is that going to give me in the numerator? You can make it 3 times the square root of 18. Like, that's okay, but then you have to simplify that, right? 9 square root of 2. Does that make sense? And it's okay if you can't, like, stare at it and make that make sense. Write that down. It's 3 square root of 3 times the square root of 2, because that's where the square root of 6 comes from, times the square root of 3 all over 2. So then this gives me a 3 times 3. That's going to give me 9 square root of 2 over 2. Everybody okay with that? So what is the base length? Close, yeah. 6 plus 3 square root of 6 over 2. And that happens a lot. Like and I know you know it's not multiplying, because when I ask all about that, you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. But sometimes those things just, they come out of your brain a little bit wrong. But there's my base length, there's my height. We all good? Yes? All right, so then I go to plug it in. The base is 6 plus 3 square root of 6 over 2. What do I need to make sure I do with that? Parentheses, yes. I heard put it over 1. I can do that too. There's no reason, like here you can get a common denominator if you want, but you don't really have to at this point. It's okay that they're separate. Times the height, which is 9 square root of 2 over 2. Okay. So then I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to get 6 times 9 square root of 2 over 2. I'm going to put the 6 over 1. And then 3, I'm not equal, sorry, plus 3 square root of 6 over 2 times 9 square root of 2 over 2. Right. See how it's okay to write it down before you actually do it. Doing those things and trying not to rush through it, that is what is hurting some of you in here. Not all of you, but some of you are so against writing stuff down and showing your work. Well, you know what? It ain't working out too well for you because you ended up on my list and you're sitting in here. So write it down and pay attention to what you have, okay? So 2 goes into 2 once, goes into 6 3 times. So this is no longer going to have to be a fraction because my denominator is 1. So this is going to give me 27 square root of 2. We good? Plus, all right, can I cancel those 2's out with anything? In this next group here. 2's used with anything? No, right? Not so good just yet. So I can't really do anything there, but in my numerator, this is going to give me 3 times 9. Okay, I'm going to write down like an extra step again. 3 times 9 is what? 27. Okay, so I've got the square root of 2 times the square root of 6. Let's try and simplify that without making it the square root of 12. Because this is like square root of 3 and square root of 2 square root of 3. Okay. All over 4. You with me? So now, should I just multiply 2 times 27 at this point? I mean, I can. There's nothing wrong with that. But is there something else I could do instead? Can I simplify? Yeah. I can reduce this, right? 2 goes into 2 once, goes into 4 twice. I didn't have to actually multiply and get a bigger number there. And my final area is 27 square root of 2 plus 27 square root of 3 over 2. We're all good with that? Parentheses, units squared. You cannot let the, oh, that one actually had it on there. Oh, thank you. Good job. It doesn't. It just is all crammed together. It looks like meters. It's just squared. Yeah, it's just a bad. Mine up here are usually a little bit more foggy. All right, we good with that? Don't let the square roots freak you out. Y'all are making mistakes on that and getting freaked out on it because, number one, some of you may not be able to do your special right triangles correctly still after I've drilled them into your brain like a bazillion times. And then secondly, because you're not writing down enough and you're getting it all mixed up in your head. Okay, we good? All right, so I want you to work on the rest of them. I will come around and help you with that, but it would need to be turned in to me with all your work done tomorrow in order to get credit. Yeah, when you come to class.